Hello, and welcome to this community consultation event run by Dorset Community Energy about the Energy Local Bridport Phase 2, our plans for the expansion of the project. I'm Derek Moss, I'm one of the directors of Dorset Community Energy. You'll also hear from Alison Jay and Pete West from Dorset Community Energy. So what we're going to talk about, first we're just going to briefly go over who we are, what the problem that we're seeking to address is, how energy local clubs can help, specifically what they are, what's currently in place in Bridport, what we hope to do with an expansion, and sort of what's needed, what's involved, what things might look like, a timeline as to how things might change, and then there'll be an invitation for you guys to take part in a survey that will really help us with the next stage. And there'll be plenty of time for questions at the end. But before I get on to the main talk, there's going to be lots of numbers and potentially confusing technical words. So I'll just give a very simple summary right before we say anything else. So first of all, DCE, Dorset Community Energy, is running a pilot project to allow the local trading of renewable energy. It's in Bridport. It will mean that people can buy energy directly from local generators and split the difference in price. They get the electricity cheaper, something around 10%, and the generator gets more money for the electricity they've generated. If we can get lots of customers to join who have a daytime demand, there will hopefully effectively be a subsidy for solar PV. We, Dorset Community Energy, are hoping to build one or more small solar farms, about 250 kilowatts, and then hopefully there'll be incentive for others to put solar PV on their roofs as well. So that's the simple version. Now we're going to carry on with the rest of the talk, and for that we're going to go to me a couple of days ago. So first of all, who we are, most people here know who Dorset Community Energy is. This is our site at Milldown. We are a community benefit society run by volunteers, gathering community money in community share offers, using that money to install solar PV on schools, and either taking the feed-in tariff and using that to pay back the investors, or selling electricity to the schools and hospitals and community buildings cheaply in order to make our money back. This is Milldown Primary School in Blandford. We've got 22 sites as of now. We're over a megawatt of energy. It's over £1 million that we've raised. So it's all gone quite big from the small thing that it started with, and just a few volunteers running it. This is Bridport Primary School. So I'm just going to run through the installations in Bridport. One of the first runs we did. The art centre in the middle of Bridport's got some PV on it. And our most recent installation, some of you may have seen, is 100 kilowatts on the Bridport Hospital. So we've been quite active in and around the Bridport area. So that's sort of our general model. We put solar PV on roofs. But for various reasons, you'll see in a minute, we sort of looking to the future. We might not be able to do that too much longer. So a little bit of background. This is just a bit about Dorset. So in terms of environment, Dorset's got sort of really good recycling rates, quite efficient street lighting and really efficient schools, but we're not very good in terms of our emissions or how fast our emissions are dropping or how much renewable energy we've installed. This is just a little diagram to show how much renewable energy was installed over the last 10 years. You'll see that from 2014, we were doing quite well. And then in 2017, we sort of stopped measuring it due to austerity, and probably nothing's been installed since then. The two red lines, the lower red line, that is where we should have been if we were going to head towards our 2020 target. And you can see that for the 2014, 15, 16, 17, we were ahead of our target, but recently we've probably dropped off because nothing's been installed. And just out of interest, the steeper red line is what we should have been doing if we were interested in zero carbon by 2050, and for ourselves, self-supplying. So sort of the main question, why is that so bad? Why is installation basically stopped for the last 3 or 4 years when we were doing so well, 2014, 15 and 16? Basically, we said no to the onshore wind turbines. We said no to the offshore wind turbines. The central government removed all the subsidies for the solar farms, so we don't have any more solar farms. So there's no financial argument, or little, there are some, argument to invest in renewable energy. And why is that the case? Well, basically, it's still relatively expensive to install renewable energy systems. And if you're installing a renewable energy system and exporting the electricity, you only get about 5p per kilowatt hour for it, which means that the payback times are generally quite long, sort of 15 years or so. At that level, there are starting to become very large solar farms that are investable for low risk pension funds, sort of hundreds of acres. But none of them are actually being built yet. They're in the planning system. So not a lot is being installed. That's the problem. There are ways of making the financial things stack up better. If you can use electricity yourself, basically you earn a bit more money for it. It makes the investment more worthwhile. If you sell electricity to a building, like DCE does on hospitals and some schools, then you can get your paybacks down. Or if you can get grants, then things become more investable. Payback sort of drop to below 10 years. And the Dorset Community Energy Model currently depends on two of these. We get grants, which are only available for another 2 years, and we sell electricity to host buildings. We don't just export it. So the way to get more renewable energy built is it has to be more financially attractive to invest in it. And the main way to do that, given there's no national subsidies anymore, is we need to find a way to make it worth more than 5p to export the electricity, because not a lot we as a small community group can do about the cost of installations. You may have noticed that the 5p per kilowatt that generators get for exporting is a lot less than the probably 15, 16, 17, maybe even 20p that you pay to import the electricity. And the difference between those two is the cost of maintaining the grid, administering the bills, and there's the profit margin of the energy suppliers. But there is actually a loophole in the supply regulations, which are the rules that govern how electricity works, which does allow direct trading from generators to customers. So there's a potential to cut out that 10p difference and share it between the generators and the customers. There's lots of conditions in order to be able to exploit this loophole. It needs to be local across one substation, and we'll come back to a map of this in a sec. It needs to be at low voltage, so we can't be installing megawatt scale turbines or megawatts of solar PV in big solar farms. It's got to be relatively small things. The largest thing that can be connected is sort of a 1 acre solar farm, and you'll hear a lot about 1 acre solar farms in a minute. And it needs to be within one organisation. We'll come back to that in a sec as well. There is an example of this working. It's a Bethesda in Wales. It was, I don't know, maybe Pete might jump in with when it was set up. It's a 100 kilowatt hydro scheme. I think it was it 4 years ago, Pete? He's muted maybe. It's been going for a while, but for various reasons, it wasn't repeatable to do with how it was set up. But there are a bunch of other test projects like that one being set up around Wales at the moment. And we're thinking, perhaps we should see if this works to help us incentivize more renewable energy. So we set up Energy Local Bridport. So I'm sure some of you saw in the guest list, we had Richard, David and Debbie, Richard Toft, David Pension and Debbie Bond. Sorry if I've remembered your name wrong there, Debbie. They are the directors of Energy Local Bridport, which is a little club set up around Bridport to trade renewable energy around the Bridport substation. So it's just a pilot study. It's based on using the 50 kilowatt wind turbine at Solway Ash. To start off with, is going to be 13, 14, 15. I'm looking at Ali to if I got that right. Households when it first starts, and then arranged to about 50 people in the spring. Have I got that right? 15 and then 50?
Starting off with 15 and yeah, moving to about 55.
Yeah, so, and I think the plan is it's going to start in the next couple of weeks, the small club. So it will start trading, people buying electricity from that wind turbine in the next couple of weeks. It's a small matter of a year after we originally planned it, but I think, as you can all imagine, there have been we've got some fairly large excuses for at least some of that delay. So this is a sort of complicated graph, but basically, if you just look at, you might be able to see my mouse cursor there, you can't. If you look in the green box, you have a local generator. Normally, a local generator would sell along the black diagonal line to an energy supplier, in this case, Octopus Energy. That would be at 5p per kilowatt hour. Octopus Energy would then sell to the households, which is at the bottom right, at 15p per kilowatt hour. What the Energy Local Club allows you to do is, if you look at in between the generator and the households, there's a little pair of holding hands. It allows you to sort of cut out the supplier and buy electricity direct. And therefore, the householders, well, you set a match tariff. It can be anything, but generally, well, particularly in Bridport, we set it roughly halfway between the two. So the benefits of avoiding these middlemen are shared between the generator and the households. There are some other people on this diagram, but you don't really need to worry about them. The Energy Local Advisor, you might be able to see my mouse cursor, that's Ali. So the Energy Local Advisor could wave.
Hello.
There she is. Oh, here's that map that I promised someone, or I've already forgotten the name of. So the blue line is roughly, if you're inside the blue line, then you can join the club. If you're outside, then you can't. It's all to do with direct connections to the substation in Bridport. And the person who was interested, we'll come back to that map later. You can see it again. See what you can find. So how does it work? If you want to join a club, the generator, so to start off with, the wind turbine has to sign up to Octopus Energy. At the moment, they're the only supplier that are allowing this to happen, but in the future, we hope there'll be others. All the customers in the club also sign up with Octopus Energy in a time of use tariff. When the turbine is generating electricity, that is spread out amongst all the members of the club that have a demand at the time. So when the turbine is generating, people get cheap electricity. For the wind turbine in this initial small club, that price is going to be 9.5p. So less than the 15p that the customers would normally pay, but it's also more than the 5p that the wind turbine would normally get for their export. The excess demand, because the turbine's not going to generate all the electricity that all these customers need, is met by Octopus Energy. It's just purely a legal and financial arrangement. There's no sort of engineering or physical changes go on. So that's also the little pilot study should be starting next couple of weeks and expand to 50 houses in the spring. But this is just the start. Basically, what's the pilot project with this wind turbine? What it's doing is it's helping people save some money. It's keeping money in the local economy. But basically, it's to do with money. What we're interested in is Dorset community energy. I don't want to put words into Pete's mouth, but it's in our constitution. We're interested in increasing the amount of renewable energy. So we're now looking at the next stage of Energy Local Bridport. If 2 weeks' time it all works fine, and we're pretty sure it will do, and then a few months after that, there's 50 people all trading energy and it's all working really well, then we want to get to the point where, okay, there is potentially this higher amount of money that you can sell renewable electricity for. Can that lead to new renewable energy? And that's what this consultation is about, I wanted to ask you about at the end of the talk. So, yes, if we can get lots of people who want to buy electricity during the day into the club, then we can install solar PV and sell to them through the club. So we've been looking at various different options. To start with, we're looking at 3 potential sites to build a small solar farm. So this is small in the scale of the solar farms you've seen around the county, but it's the biggest thing that could be attached to an Energy Local Club. It's about 1 acre. Somewhere between 200 and 250 kilowatts. The particular size depends upon the location on the grid. So we're currently doing a feasibility study into 2 of these, and the third one we're sort of reasonably sure about. They're not in the town. They're about 1.5 miles out of town on some not particularly good agricultural land. We've currently, as we speak, pre-applications are happening for planning, feasibility studies are being conducted, and I think it's all scheduled to be finished and published by the end of March. I think that's right, isn't it, Peter? Or is it middle of March?
I have to get used to unmuting myself. The feasibility studies will be finished by the middle of March, and it's been put in the public domain. So anybody who's interested in what the economics are, what the cost of a ground-mounted solar is, they can find out from this feasibility study, which is in the public domain.
All that will be available, yeah. So we can only do that. We can only build these solar farms. It might be 1, 2, 3. We can only do it if we get lots of demand for daytime electricity who want to join the club. So yeah, we need people with demand, people who want to join the club. Then we need to raise the finance to build the solar arrays. Partly be a community share offer like we normally do, partly a grant application. And actually that part of it is reasonably easy if we get lots of people in the club. If there's lots and lots of daytime demand, if we get lots of people who with big daytime demands, then not only will there be a justification for our ground-mounted solar PV arrays, there'll also be justification for other people to install solar PV. And it might well be that this means that people start putting PV on domestic houses again. We are hoping in the first year to allow people that have already got solar PV on their houses to sell into the club and therefore to earn a bit more money. So if you wanted to join, and as a customer, just save, basically, well, you're doing 2 things. You are potentially saving money on your energy bills and you're helping incentivize new renewable energy. There's a few things you need to do. Firstly, you need to join the club. It costs about £5 a year. Hopefully your savings will be more than that, although we'll come on to that in a sec. You need to have a smart meter installed. Don't worry about the bit about half-hourly metering. It's from a different talk that I forgot to edit out. And I think at least that's the reason the 15 people are originally joining the pilot club with the wind turbine is they're the ones who already had smart meters installed. You then need to share your consumption data with us. We want to be able to tell you if or not you're going to save money or not. And to do that, we need to look at your consumption data. You'll also need to switch to a time of use tariff. This is the time of use tariff for the Bridport Energy Local Club, the initial club based on the wind turbine. So you're probably used to paying a flat rate as a domestic customer for your electricity, probably 16, 17p per kilowatt hour. As part of joining the club, you have to join this tariff where the cost of the electricity varies with time of day. And as you can see, throughout the morning and the middle of the day, it's about normal. It's quite expensive in the evening, and that's because electricity genuinely is more expensive to generate in the evening. And then it's cheap at night. And the blue line shows the well, just over 9.5p, where the match price is. So electricity sold from the wind turbine, if it's used during the day or in the evening, it's going to save you money. And at night time, it's about the same as buying it from the grid. So whether or not any particular household would save any money is quite hard to estimate because it depends upon your demand profile. In most cases, with the wind turbine, people are going to make a saving. With a solar farm, it's less certain because it depends upon when you use your electricity. There'll probably be some saving from the time of use tariff for most people, and then something like a 10% saving on your electricity bill might be true. I mean, we don't really know. We need to see your demand beforehand. Overall, there might be some saving on your energy bills from between 0 and 20%. But it does depend on your when you use electricity, and we can help with monitoring if need be. So the plans are we're going to build these 1, 2, or 3 small solar farms. But I can say small solar farms lots of times in 1 acre. Not everyone can visualize what 1 acre is. Luckily, Director Peach has been to visit one and taken a little video. So hopefully he's now going to take control of the screen and show you the video. Got it, Pete? Or yeah, cool. I think because you're muted, Pete, we haven't got any sound. Ali, can you unmute Pete?
I shall unmute Pete.
I could attempt to do an impression of him and commentate because I know what he says. Oh, here he is.
Whoa.
Strand of Botco to show what a 1 acre solar farm might look like in practice. This example is near Bridport in Somerset. First thing to notice, it's relatively unobtrusive. There's trees on the north side, a hedgerow on the side where I am, and another hedgerow on the side shielding the view from the road. Also, you notice that the security fencing around the solar array is also unobtrusive. It's simply sheep netting with a single strand of barbed wire at the top and on wooden posts. The other interesting point as I walk along a little bit is it's possible to have shorter lengths of each solar array might only be 40 or 50 meters long, which then again improves the appearance of the solar farm and makes it much more smaller scale and attractive. And finally, you notice that the solar panels are mounted on a solid steel frame, which allows for sheep grazing under the solar panels, or alternatively, it will be possible to plant wildflowers for biodiversity. So Dorset Community Energy would like to install 2 separate 1 acre solar arrays of this scale and basically allow the electricity exported to be sold to local people at a cheaper price than grid electricity, a real win-win situation.
Cool. So I'll just quickly go back to my slides. And while it's thinking about it, I'll just say, yeah, so the 3 sites that we're looking at, we've chosen in, while consulting with the area outstanding natural beauty. They're not sore thumb places. They are all very well hidden. So yeah, the idea is that we can hide these small arrays where pretty much no one can see them. In fact, I challenge, if you didn't look at the soon to be made public report, I challenge you to find one of them, and it's very much out of the way. So quickly, the timeline of what's going to we hope is going to happen this month and next month. We're basically hoping consultations just to see how many people are interested in joining a club with solar or joining an expanded bigger club beyond the 50 kilowatt 50 houses. If there's a lot of interest, then we need to do demand monitoring. We need to see when electricity is going to be needed and if solar is going to work to provide it. Then we'll try and figure out if people are going to make savings. If it all goes well and we've got enough demand, we'll do a planning application for the solar farm, well, 1 or 2, depending on how much demand there is, over the summer. And then when it comes to the autumn, if we've got planning permission, we'll ask people to commit to joining the club. There's no need to commit until then. Once we've got people committing to join the club, we'll do a share offer to raise the money. And then in the first half of next year, we build the solar farm or farms. And then summer 22 would be when people, new members of the club joining up for the solar, will be switching over and start making their savings. And then from then on, hopefully other people will join the club. So one thing I need to make clear, so if you are already a member of the existing, if you're a domestic customer, already a member of the existing small club based on the wind turbine, then thanks for coming along. But I'm about to ask you about a survey. What we're interested in is people who aren't currently members of the wind turbine club, who might want to join up to help us basically motivate this big solar farm. So if you're interested, please talk to us now. We'll have half an hour or so of questions. Email us your interest, and I'll put the email address in a sec. We'll take a survey. Hopefully Ali is about to put a link to that in the chat.
Going in now.
Going in the chat, maybe. If you can't find it from here, if you look on our website, there's Dorset Community Energy, and then there's an energy local section in the projects, and there's a link there to the survey. So what we're trying to find is, are you interested in joining up to potentially be a club member? If you're not already a member of the existing club, are you interested in joining up? And yes, that's the main point of what we wanted to say today. There's some information about what we're planning. We're interested in basically answering your questions, see if we can clarify anything, and then seeing if you guys are interested in joining if you're in the Bridport area. For those of you not in the Bridport area, I'm sure you'll have questions about how to set up clubs like this elsewhere. And we've had 6 or 7 other towns in and around Dorset interested. It sounds like we might have some interested in Somerset. We're aiming to want to get this one going, at least operating first before we start on the next one. But the hope is this can be rolled out elsewhere. So there's the email address to contact. And yeah, any questions? Well, actually, before we get on to questions, Ali and Pete, any corrections?
No,
correction, excellent.
No
Okay.
no correction at all, Derek.
Well, in that case, we can go to questions.
Oh, wait, I've got a comment.
Okay.
The one thing that I quite like about Energy Local Bridport is in practice, it's very simple. All that householders need to do is to switch to Octopus Energy and have a smart meter fitted. And what I like about it is there's no obligation. You've got the time of use tariff. If it doesn't work for you, you can leave without any penalty at 4 weeks notice. So it's basically simple. All you're doing really is switching electricity supplier, and you can change supplier again if you don't like this sort of deal. But that's really a sort of simple summary, that it's not such a complicated thing as it is behind the scenes, as it were.
Yeah, a really, really simple one. Before my simple one would have just been, yeah, do you want to change supplier, save a bit of money and help renewable energy? And leave at any time.